Dublin was in the midst of a population boom. The population was growing dramatically. It became the second largest city in Great Britain and Ireland, just behind London. With hundreds of breweries and distilleries opening up, many of them would start to close down. What Dublin didn't realise at the time, gained an institute that would remain on the city's north side for 2 centuries later. And that is where we are today, of course, Jameson Distillery on Bow Street. There's the man of the hour right there, John Jameson. And he couldn't have done all this alone. So he had help from his lovely wife, Margaret. Two people who shared a taste for adventure. And with passion and innovation, they grew the business to what it is today. Not only that, guys, they grew their family, and together they had 16 children. A lot helped them. A little bit of whiskey helped them, I'd say. Yeah. He liked it, yeah. So by 1820, John Jameson II, their second son, took over as master distiller. He was entrusted with his father's legacy, and he built upon that legacy, creating a distillery 5 acres in length, a lot bigger than what we got today. And this is what he left to his son, John Jameson III. So, a lot of Jameson in the name. That is why Jameson is on each and every one of the bottles labeled. But the Jameson whiskey is a shared legacy. And we should show that by putting a little green figurine on the bottom of each and every bottle. Look at this right here. That's called the barrelman. Now we put the barrelman there to pay respect to the workers who came before us. The barrelmen spent their years carrying this business on their back, literally and figuratively. So without the barrelmen, there's no Jameson story. 1880 and Bow Street became a city within the city of Dublin. They became a bustling place full of highly skilled craftspeople. Some self-sufficient. We employed carpenters, blacksmiths, and even ostlers. If you don't know what an ostler is, ostlers used to look after horses. So clean up the stables, horseshoes, that kind of thing. And if you had a job at Jameson, you had a job for life. People who worked here took great pride in what they did. This is why we had 300 people employed at their peak, meaning we were supporting hundreds of families all across Dublin. And when things were going great, we were making 1 million gallons of whiskey, which amounts to 6.5 million bottles per year. So that's a little bit of that history. But as time went on, things got a little bit rocky. So, by the turn of the 19th century, we began shipping our whiskey worldwide. More and more people could enjoy Jameson and what it had to offer. But those good times wouldn't last, of course, because of World War. World War broke out, stopping us from selling our whiskey across the seas. Not once, but twice. And then for any of you guys who know your history, more specifically Irish history, Ireland had its own internal fight known as the 1960 Rising. We fought the British to gain independence. That fight came at a cost, and the cost was this distillery. What we're looking at right now is Middleton, County Cork. So the history of Jameson lives here. This is where all the history, the spirit of Jameson. But where we make the whiskey is actually over here in Middleton, County Cork.
How far away is that from?
Middleton, County Cork is going to be about 3-4 hours. But Middleton is a really great place to make our whiskey. It is local to 2 essential ingredients that we need to make whiskey. I'll tell you what they are in just a second in the next screen. But a main reason is because of the workers. Every one of the workers know the 246 years of heritage. They are whiskey makers, master distillers, whiskey tasters, of course. I bet the whiskey tasters love their job. The Jameson story is a story of the people. We wouldn't be here without the customers and the people who actually put the liquid inside the bottles. So that's why we like to consider each and every one of our customers as barrelmen too. So guys, Jameson we own, say Powers or Respawn or Metropolis. Their own whiskeys are owned by the boss. Yeah, so they bought it in 1966. Cork became the perfect place for us to make our whiskey. Like I said, for 2 very essential ingredients that we need. First thing you need to make whiskey is pure, clean, running water. Now the word whiskey actually derives from the Irish word ishkabaha, which means the water of life. Thankfully, we have that water running in the form of the Dublin River, which is right beside our Jameson Distillery, represented by 3 pot stills. Second thing you need is barley. Barley is also thankfully locally sourced. But the third thing you need is maize. Now maize requires a little bit more sunlight to grow. So we have to import our maize that comes all the way from France. We're going back to the barley because we do use 2 different types of barley. First is unmalted barley. Now the unmalted barley is straight from the fields. It still has the stem attached, has the hard husk-like shell at the top, so we get the creamy and spicy flavors from it. Second type of barley we're going to use then is the malted barley. Now malted barley, of course, kept inside the malt house where we submerge it in water for 5 days. And we do that so we can trick the barley into believing it is springtime. Because in springtime, barley releases sugars and enzymes. Sugars and enzymes are extremely important when we're making whiskey, okay? So if we stop there, the barley is going to germinate, it's going to turn into grass, okay? We don't want that. So we pop our barley on this tin, ceramic molten tile, with a little bit of heat coming off of it. Guys, if you look at your tables, you'll see right here the ceramic molten tile. Have a touch, have a feel, it's a tiny bit warm. This one's a little bit not that warm. This one's a little bit warm, but you get the idea. You guys are here is the barley, the malted, unmalted barley. Unfortunately, we had to cover it up because people just kept eating it. But the difference between the two is that the malted barley smells a little bit more like cereal because it went through the process. Unmalted, straight in the fields, it smells more like grass. Speaking of difference, if you're more of a Scotch drinker, what you do is you take your barley, you heat it with turf, also known as peat. I'm sure you've heard of peated whiskey before. That's where we get that. But for Jameson, we want smooth. How we get that smooth is putting our ingredients inside this thing. It's called a milling machine. And that grinds our ingredients up into flour called grist. The grist goes inside this, a mash machine, which squeezes all the sugars, creates porridge called wort. The wort goes in here. Fermentation vats, and it's fused with some yeast cells. Now the yeast cells' job is to eat up the sugars, eat up the enzymes, and that now is going to create CO2, and most importantly, it's going to create alcohol. So right now, we got a 10% alcohol. 10% alcohol, and it is called wash. But wash is like a very flat beer, okay? Wash would not be very nice to drink at all. So we need a little bit more work to do before we can call this Irish whiskey. So if you look at any bottle of Jameson, you're gonna see blended written on it, okay? What that means is 2 different distillation types mixed together, okay? So the first distillation type is called pot still. Pot still whiskey. So we take that 10% alcohol, that wash, and we pop it inside our first pot still. Inside of this pot still is water and alcohol, but we only want the alcohol. So we're going to separate the two by boiling. Alcohol boils at a lower temperature than water does. So all we got to do is turn the heat down a little bit. Turn the heat down, and then the alcohol is going to vaporize. When the alcohol vaporizes, it rises to the neck of our pot still, gets hot by a condenser. The condenser turns the vapor, back into liquid, which we collect down here in a little drum. So, the first is called wash still, second is called faint still, third is called spirit still. They all have different names, but they all are the exact same. We repeat the process 3 times. So triple distilled is what Jameson is known for. Triple distilled means double the smoothness. That is what separates us from other whiskey companies. So the second method of distillation is called column still. This way is a more modern way of making whiskey. A continuous pot still. It's for that malted barley and the maize that I mentioned earlier. So we're going to find out the difference using our noses. So guys, what I want you to do is go with distilling. To take a little piece of cardboard, and I want you to spray it with the atomizers. Now we don't need to lift them up because the tops are off them. So all we gotta do is just push down like this and have a spray. So guys, give it a try. It's all the way from America. Kentucky seasoned in bourbon. Second one is all the way from Jerez in Spain, seasoned all the rest of sherry. Okay? So guys, we're gonna smell the difference again. Use our nose. We got bourbon, we got sherry. These are barrel lids. So what we're gonna do is pick up these barrel lids, put them to our nose, and have a smell. Okay? For 7 years we do nothing but wait. If you guys look at the tables, you will see these flasks. A new make of alcohol go in and a 7-year difference. You see the progression. You see that the color has now changed. Of a little store in Ireland known as the Angel Share. So the idea is that the angels come down in the night and they take some whiskey for themselves. Okay? The angels take 2% of our whiskey every year. Doesn't sound like a lot, but it's 49,000 bottles we're losing to the Angel Share every single day. So, we've got a lot of drunk angels in Ireland. Believe the stereotypes, okay? If you're ever saying a prayer thinking the angels aren't listening, it's because they're drunk, okay? So, after 7 years, we open up the barrel, and then we mix the bourbon, the sherry, the tonic, the calm still, all together for a 50-50 blend. We pop it inside this. A bottle of Jameson whiskey. So guys, that is everything that goes inside of Jameson. How does it taste?
Good.
I'm sure you all be good is the right answer. Well guys, let's find how good.